What's going on YouTube? This is Calvin Roberts. Welcome to Competitive Matchups. This is a brand new YouTube channel and we're going to break down athletes, former athletes, today's athletes, and we're going to break down teams, former teams, today's teams, whatever we want to do. We're going to break it down. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty. We're going to try to see what the old school and what the new school brings together. So we're going to kick it off with some of the two best players that I've ever seen, especially playing the guard position. We're going to go with a 6-footer coming out of Hampton, Virginia, standing 6 feet tall. We're going to go with Allen the Answer Iverson. This dude was just unbelievable. And if you YouTube this guy, you can actually see what he actually brings to the table. This guy was fast. This guy was lightning fast. He was lightning quick. Great shot. When he grew up in high school, he wasn't just a basketball player, which was crazy. He actually started quarterbacking. He was a quarterback on his high school football team. He was quick. He was fast. Lightning arm. He was basically Michael Vick before Michael Vick. And Iverson, you got to think about how he was a two-sport athlete, not just on basketball court. He earned the Associates Press High School Player of the Year. He was Division 5A champs for both sports, football and basketball. Iverson obviously played 2 years only at Georgetown, but he was actually balling over there. He later got drafted in 1996, #1 overall. You imagine a 6-foot guard, 175 pounds, getting drafted #1 overall by the Philadelphia 76ers. Just let that marinate and sink into you right there. This dude was dominant. You got to think about this. The class in 1996 that included Kobe Bryant and Steve Nash, I mean, is one of the best classes you can ever compare it to. The other class you can almost compare it to is probably 2003 with LeBron, D. Wade, and Carmelo Anthony. In 1996, he was able to win Rookie of the Year award over great players like I just mentioned. So Allen Iverson came into the league dominant, and it wasn't by accident. It was on purpose. He was meant to go to the league and do what he does best, is score the basketball. So when you talk about Allen Iverson and one of the all-time greats, you have to include how he got drafted #1. He obviously won multiple scoring champions, league MVP in the year 2000 and 2001, and he was Rookie of the Year. The guy was dominant, but the next guy is something different. This next guy was an unbelievable player. Even at a young age, this kid was able to put the ball in the hoop. He wasn't the biggest guy. He wasn't the fastest guy. He just had a good basketball IQ. He knew exactly where to be on the basketball court. Father that played for the Charlotte Hornets and able to play for the Toronto Raptors. This kid was able to go to the game, sit around, and actually get some shots up with the NBA players. I mean, can you just imagine some of the kids that would just dream about going to a basketball arena and having their dad just sitting around and telling them to shoot as many times as you want? It's something that he endured. It's something that he actually kept inside. Later on, this kid went to high school, wasn't the biggest kid, about 6'2", about 160, soaking wet. I mean, you guys get the picture. The guy wasn't really a big guy. So he grew only 1 inch after high school, standing 6'3", only 160. He wasn't a highly recruited athlete out of high school. He only played one sport. He wasn't like a 2-sport or a 3-sport athlete. He only played one sport. So when he went to Davidson College after high school, he was a standout. This dude was shooting all over the place. He would pull up, shoot from the half court almost, if you think about it. All the games you see versus Duke, it's a reason why Coach K was secretly trying to get this guy to come to Duke, but it didn't really fit the description. So when this kid got drafted #7 overall by the Golden State Warriors, the Golden State Warriors knew what they had in stake. And what they had is a guy named Stephen Curry. One of the baddest, the best, I think personally, one of the best shooters I've ever seen in my life. He's a 3-time championship. This video is about a comparison from Allen Iverson to Stephen Curry. Matchup mano a mano. Who do you got? What do you think? And when it comes to stats, the stats are pretty close, actually. I mean, if you look at the stats, I mean, I got them right in front of me. If you look at the stats, really dive in deep and look at the stats, how these two players, iconic players, how they match up is just unreal. This is the reason why I have them first. These are some of, like I said, some of my best players watching as a kid, as an adult. I love these guys playing. I just love it. You guys see the passion. Anyways, back to the stats. Iverson, career field goal. I'm going to read it off to you. He's a 42.5 field goal percentage. It's good. At 3 points, he slacks down just a little bit at 31.3. He's not really a 3-point shooter, but he could pull up on the three. You better watch out. He could. So the free throws are not too bad at 78%, which is about average, a little bit above average, but it's not too bad. At assists, he's about 6.2. Steals about 2.2, which is good. He was a good defensive player. A lot of good steals. Great quickness. And just an eye for the ball. And if you know what I mean, this kid had an eye for the ball. Iverson was one of those players. He was just there at the right time. If you ever watched the game, you go back to the old school finals, Lakers versus 76ers, game 1. What Iverson was able to do to the Lakers really kind of set that series off. And that meant Kobe and Shaq had to just play a lot of, not really one-on-one, but they had to really step their game up because Iverson was a problem. And that's some of the reasons why he even got the nickname The Answer. That's some of the reasons why he got it. That game 1, 2000 NBA Finals, that step back, that step over Tyronn Lue, you guys remember it. That was iconic. Anyways, going back to Iverson and what Iverson is able to do, what his biggest attribute, I believe, is that he can actually score the ball. And it's not from just the floor. He can go to the free throw line, but he was just a hard guy to guard. Very shifty. He wasn't powerful, but he was strong with the ball. When he drove to the lane, you can see the football instinct, like how you would hold over the ball and just maneuver his body in a way that it was nobody really like Allen Iverson in the NBA. He looked like an and-one player mixed with a football. It was kind of interesting. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, please YouTube Allen Iverson. The brother was cold. Back to his points. His career points per game is 26.7. I mean, just saying 26.7 as your career average as a 6 foot, 175 pound player is damn good. So just to think about that, the stats from Allen Iverson is pretty incredible. Now wait a minute. Got you all kind of leaned in and you guys are kind of interested now. Allen Iverson and Steph Curry debate. Let me read you Steph Curry's stats is mind-boggling because he's not even done yet. That's the crazy thing about it. His field goal percentage is 47.6. His 3-point percentage, I repeat, his 3-point percentage is 43.5. And I don't know about you, but that's some of the best 3-point shooting ever to display on any level of basketball. So just let that go ahead and marinate on that. Anyways, back to the stats for Steph Curry. His free throw percentage as a whole, his whole career is 90.6, which makes him a top 10 free throw shooter if all time already. His assists is 6.6. His steals is 1.7, a little on the low side. Not really known as a defender, but he could defend if he wanted to. Not really, but yeah, you know what I mean. At the same time, the only thing that Steph Curry actually kind of loses in this debate is his points per game as his career. He's only averaging 23.5 in his career. But it's not as bad as you think. You have to think about all the injuries that happened for Steph Curry. The ankles. He had ankle surgery. He had special ankle braces. Just to lace him up and just to be cool on the basketball floor. So if you think about his stats are mind-boggling. But the thing is that 23.5 is just lower than Allen Iverson's 26.7. But that's just me. That's the stats I'm bringing it to you. And one of my favorite parts is the comparison that the people like. The people, we always have the comparison. We always go to the barbershop and talk about the sports comparison. Who would you take? And why would you take him? And who would you take if it was a different scenario or a different rule or a different time in the NBA? So I'm going to break down what the people, what you guys are actually saying about this matchup. Put this out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for you guys. So when you guys came up and you guys are voting, you guys are sitting down on your cell phones or you guys are on your computers, you guys are saying, that's a pretty good matchup. You got Steph Curry and Allen Iverson. I mean, who wouldn't like this? Who wouldn't want this matchup as their all-time matchup of all time for guards, especially guys that are on the smaller side? These are not big giants. These are guards that can shoot, they can score the ball. So what you guys came up with at 74%, 74% of you guys said Steph Curry. You guys would rather have Steph Curry over Iverson. And there was only 26% of you guys that obviously said Allen Iverson. That would probably be your guy. But the thing is, it was mixed results because you got the young crowd and you also got the older crowd. The older crowd, the older generation, I can probably say I'm in the older generation if you think about it, because I grew up in Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was probably my third, favorite player in the NBA, behind obviously Kobe Bean Bryant. I mean, Iverson was one of those guys that I obviously respected, but at the end of the day, he was going against Kobe. I didn't like this dude. My brother, he loved Allen Iverson. He had Allen Iverson shoes. He had his jerseys. He had some of the mixtapes Allen Iverson was on, the N1s. I mean, that thing was cool, but let's slow down. Let's slow down. Going back to what I was saying about how we were viewing these players, and that the older generation, we're going to lean toward the people that we actually saw. Allen Iverson was a hell of an athlete. One of the best scorers we ever seen as a little guy in the NBA. Some of the new generations are going to lean towards, I guess, Steph Curry, because that's what they're accustomed to seeing. From 2012 till now, Steph Curry's been kind of unbelievable, and we kind of seem to forget about the greatness of older players because it was just, back in the day. We seem to forget about things like that. But for you guys as a whole, as the fans, you guys actually voted Steph Curry over Iverson. But that's just your point of view. I like it. I respect it. Let's see what I got to say. And this is one of my favorite parts of the show, the conclusion. By the way, if you guys like the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. You can also catch me on my podcast, Competitive 24. You can catch it at Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and Spotify. I'll leave the link down below so you guys can go ahead and click on that and go ahead and get started with that. Back to the conclusion. When it comes down to these two amazing Hall of Fame basketball players, it was a hard decision for me. It really was. I mean, I grew up, like I said, an Allen Iverson fan, and I also appreciate and I love watching Steph Curry play for the Golden State Warriors. But when it comes down to this, on competitive matchups, we have only one winner. And the winner I ultimately choose, and it comes down to this. It comes down to shooting. It comes down to the three-point shot. It comes down to one of the greatest shooters to ever lace them up in Steph Curry. That would be my winner. And going back to what I said about Allen Iverson being one of the all-time greats, one of the best small guards to ever lace them up, I would definitely love to have Allen Iverson on my team, but I'd rather have Steph Curry because, like I said, that 43.5% from the three-point line is just unheard of. This is video game numbers. This is something that you just create off a video game. It's just, for me, I gotta have that on my team. That's just me. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Competitive Matchups. Thank you for listening to the first ever episode. I'm glad to kick this started. Glad to go ahead and get this YouTube going. So once again, like I said, if you like the channel, go and subscribe, hit the notification button so every time I come out with a video, you guys know where to find me. Once again, my name is Calvin Roberts. Thank you for tuning in to Competitive Matchups, and I'm out.